Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on September 23rd, 2022 at approximately 6:51 a.m. PST. Now, I returned to this world for one primary reason, and that is to remind everyone in existence that working together we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay, now I build myself as a spiritual guide because of the fact that every tool that I offer are tools that I personally put to use. And every philosophy of life that I talk about are the same ones I personally live by. With this in mind, there are only three laws I follow. But if you look at the laws you follow, you'll find that they all fit inside the three I follow. Okay, and the three I follow are the three karmic laws. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. Now, each of these three laws is as important as the next one. Very much like the three legs on a three-legged stool. If they aren't in balance, the thing will not support you. Okay, you don't follow all three of the laws equally, you will not make the headway in all likelihood that you'd like to. So, with that in mind, I figured I'd do something a little different at this point. I usually do something a little different. Now, I've mentioned this book before, and I'm not going into it right now, but this is the one that handles the backbone of how I took my life from where it is to where I desire it to, from where it was to where I desire it to go. Okay, but now, if you take a look at my website, okay, rkeithandrews.com, you'll find each of these books listed out in more detail as to what they're for, or as to where they came from, as it were. But this is the one that I'm talking about today. Believe in your business and follow your dreams. Now, when I'm talking your business, this may not just be a question of a business. This includes whether it's your career, as in you own the business and you're building it, you work for somebody and you're building their dream, as it were, or you're putting the foundation down for your own, or you're running a house. It doesn't matter. Okay, they all fit. And I mean, when we're talking your business, this applies to everybody, all the way from the smallest business to the biggest intercontinental multinational conglomerate. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Okay, now I put this all on paper primarily because I got way too much information sitting in my head. So I was repeating myself so often that it was absolutely insane in a lot of ways. So I figured, what the heck, put it together. So when I take a look in this, and what I'm going to do while I'm doing this, okay, is I'm going to walk you through firsthand exactly what I'm working with. Okay, and the reason for that is because many people, there are a lot of different ways to learning. Okay, some people learn by doing, some by reading, some by listening. Okay, and it's usually a combination of the three. So, the first thing that you look at is this. And you can't see it very well. You probably can, but if you'll notice up here, I've got a number of signs. How about if we do it this way? Okay. If you take a look at it, this is the first key that you look at. Okay, now I heard it put one day really well, where the definition of an entrepreneur is, the definition of an entrepreneur, I'll do what somebody mentioned the other day. Okay, I keep this one handy. Okay, but the definition of an entrepreneur is someone willing to work 16 hours a day for themselves so they don't have to work 8 hours a day for somebody else. Just moving this a little so I can tilt that back a bit. And hopefully I won't scramble things completely, but we never know in my case. Okay, But I keep this one handy where I can read it, so it just sits right here. But, whoop, that didn't work. Turn that around. Now I keep this one here, okay? But the wood one that we were talking about, and this actually worked out rather well. This is the sign that I was referring to. I went down to the park near me and burned this out with literally a magnifying lens and the sun. Needless to say, I didn't get anything done with this year. I was going to add to it, but I keep it up here. So the first thing you have to figure out is, are you an entrepreneur? Which, by the way, does not mean do you want to follow nobody's rules. We're talking about setting rules up that you are personally content with. Now, the second thing you figure out is how big or what are you considering success? Okay. In my case, we own the empire, Inner Voice Enterprises. Okay. And the reality of this is I intend on taking this quite literally global. But in order to do that, I'm going to require assistance. This is why I said that working together, we can make this happen. Now, this may not be your dream. Your dream may simply be get your house in working order. Okay, but this all ties together. You don't have to be making something huge. You've got to be making what you're content with. Now, this little sheet here, okay, and you'll notice these are all real easy for me to find. Okay, this little sheet here, okay, I mentioned I was going to bring this up. Yeah, okay, is this sheet here. We have legally acquired a minimum of $3,800 by September 30th, 2022 at 23:59. Military time for 1 minute to midnight. Now, this is for the whole household. Because I work inside, I run my business from my home, I put this one on the same sheet. Inner Voice Enterprises has legally generated a minimum of $700 by September 30th, 2022 at 23:59. Again, military time for 1 minute to midnight. Now, first of all, this 38 is to run the house. Now, in all fairness, I only require 3,000. Okay. But this 38 is what I built up to, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, the 700, because I run the business from home, the 700, okay, that is included in this 38. Now, if you run your own business, and if you run your own business away from home, then this becomes a little more complicated, okay? Because in here, you've got to take into consideration rent, mortgage, utilities, your supply, your food, medical, entertainment, all of this stuff has to be included. If you're running your business from home, it overlaps a lot. But where it comes to your utilities, okay, it's absolutely critical that you remember one little detail, and that is the two most important utilities are your power. Okay, that is first and foremost. Well, no, sorry. First and foremost is your rent. Okay, you've got to pay your rent or your mortgage, or you got no place to live. Of the utilities, your power is the critical one. Because I'll tell you, if you want the internet, that's great. It's an important part of business in today's world. But if you don't have power, it won't matter. Okay, it will not make any difference at all what you've got in the way of an internet package, because you won't be able to run it anyway. Now, in your utilities, you have to look at it and go, okay, I've got my utilities as in my internet, my phone, your gas, your water. All these things have to be taken into consideration. And in today's world, one credit card. Okay, much of what's done online requires a credit card, so therefore having one is kind of crucial to getting to success. But if you're doing it wrong, now right now, like I'm not perfect by any stretch. Okay. But you have one credit card only listed as utility. You can have as many credit cards as you'd like, but hear me out on that one. Okay. Tilt that back down here, I think. Okay. You can have as many credit cards as you'd like. Good morning, Carl. How you doing? The reality is, whatever credit card you have, your target goal, in my opinion, now I've heard variations, okay, but in my opinion, your target goal is get your credit card cleared down as far as you can. Do not spend more than 10% of what you've got access to, okay, on any card, and keep it paid down. Now, right now, my credit card is pretty high up. Okay, and that is why I'm targeting. This is why I'm talking to you at this point about it. Credit cards are a great thing, but they can be absolutely devastating if you don't pay attention to them. But I can talk until I'm blue in the face. If you're not doing the work, your credit card is going to continue climbing. Okay, so when I take a look at this, okay, like I said, I'm looking at this book. This is the same one that I built the backbone of my outlook on, okay, as far as business went. Okay, but you have to figure out, what do you consider success? Is having your house running smoothly? Like for me, here's a little success for you that I want to point out. I've got these little posters, okay. Some people would call it a dream board. Some people would call it just junk. For me, they're reminders. So I walk in, okay, and go, this is what I'm doing. And I'm clearing things out so I can look in the mirror. I can look in this video and see the stuff behind me and know whether it's organized. Okay, now I can tell you what you can't see here is this one shelf that I've got to get to today. But right now, over on this table, and I don't think you can see it quite right. On this table, I have my painting station. Okay. It's ready to go. It's got a couple of things on it that I've got to sort out, not least of which is that one. So while I'm talking about this, I'm going to clear this table off because you have to take a look at it and go, okay, this is how I desire my world to work. Now, what is that? Of course, I don't have anything written on there. Let's take a look at that. And that doesn't matter. This one here. These are figures I work with, by the way. Sorry, stepped out of the sight there. Didn't realize where I'd gotten to, but that's okay. So I've got these figures that I paint over here. But the reality is, now those are kobolds, and if you're a gamer, you'll understand what that means. Where did they go? They're definitely in the wrong place. So we slide those down. Yes, I'm just out of sight for half a minute, and it's just going to get annoying if I don't get back over there. So I put the kobolds there. And then I've got this one that has goblins. And again, these are figures that not only do I paint for a hobby, I use them when I'm laying out scenes in the Yldrbac Chronicles that I'm writing. Okay, now, put those down. At that point, okay, so that works out reasonably well. And now that I'm done playing around with that, here's the thing. For you, you've got to decide what success is. For me, you've got to get wherever your office is, wherever you work on money, okay, on your finances. Okay, greetings, Wallet Moth. How you doing? The unfortunate part when you're looking at success, you've got to decide what you're seeing as success. But you start in the office. Okay, that is when the office being wherever you work on your finances. Now, this may be on an old style account book on your dining room table. It doesn't matter whether it's on your dining room table, whether you run a complete office yourself. That's okay. Or maybe you've got an office outside of your house. Okay. I recommend having an office inside your house, primarily because you still have to take care of your home stuff. Now, with that in mind, get the office cleared up so that you know where things are. Okay, so they're easy to find. Like, for instance, this little thing here. This has in point form. Well, look at that. I had that printed off already. Okay. In point form, this has my policies. It's got the way I handle things. Okay, as in how do I handle any given situation? Now, some people would call it, I'm going to put this back where it belongs. Some people would call a policy book your book of operations and procedures. But the important part of it is that you have a plan laid out, and in this book, all you have is on your policy sheet. All you have is what date you made the policy, what the policy was, and why you made it. Then every 3 months, because we're talking business, when you run your house like a business, you will find you become far more successful in everything I've seen. Okay. So you get that straight. Now I've got my list of policies I just wrote on. Can we try English? That I just printed off this morning. I'll be going through these again today and clearing them off. As a matter of fact, I got to make sure I actually wrote that down. One of the things about staying focused is if you're staying focused, you'll do fine. Okay. But I'm not talking about staying focused on what other people tell you is important. I'm talking about staying focused on what you see as important. Okay. Now, the nice part about it from my end, once you've got that in place, okay, then I take a look at it. And like I said, I was going to run through this today one step at a time. Okay. Absolutely imperative that you have a list of goals down. And when I'm talking goals, I mean whatever it is. If you're clearing out your office, if you're clearing out your kitchen, doesn't matter. Break it down into 15 minutes to half an hour per task. That way you can check them off and get them dealt with. Okay, and you'll feel by the end of the day like you've actually got something accomplished. Now, in my case today, I got really carried away because I had to break down a number of things. What do I got up here? Yeah. Really? Do I have that many? Well, I ought to be busy today. Like I said, you put 3 down. When you get one, okay, when you get one, you get the one done, check it off and mark off a 3rd. Okay. That way you've got a constant run. Now, do not forget, you have to take into consideration you're going to require sleep, you're going to require food. These have to be included in your plans. Now, with that in mind, there are 4 aspects of life that must be maintained in balance. Your personal time. This is when you do your own thing, whatever it is. Okay. This is when you do the hobbies that you enjoy. Now, remember I mentioned this issue of painting. Okay, this is one of the hobbies I enjoy. And I have been making headway with it. Okay, this is a character I've been working on recently. And I'll show you this other one as well. Okay. This is part of the hobby part. Okay. As you can see, I'm adding more and more color to this chap. Okay. And I will eventually get him finished. This character here, you can't tell much. I only added the hair color and the skin color. Okay, but this is my current character that I'm playing in Dungeons and Dragons with on Thursday nights. Well, Thursday day, sorry. Thursday night. Okay. So when I take a look at that, okay, that's your hobby, your quality time. Maybe you're one that likes to read a lot. Make some time, make certain you get time for you personally to read. Okay, for you personally to sit down and just wind down. Now, this is just on your own. Okay, that's the first aspect. The second quadrant that you've got to take into consideration is your interpersonal time. Okay, and your interpersonal time is your time spent with friends, family, that special someone, co-workers, acquaintances. It's when you're interacting with other people. But remember, you still have to stay focused on the goals you personally have. This is critically important. Okay, but that gets spread out amongst a whole lot of them. And you don't have to see everybody or every one of those groups every day. Although that special someone or the family that you've got, especially if you live with them, it would be an idea. Okay. So that's with the interpersonal. Then you've got your business stuff. Okay. Now, business is your ability to generate income or the education you're going through, or more to the point, and or the education you're going through to make this possible. Okay. That is your business time, the time you actually spend on what you're planning on generating income from. Whether that is your career or your job, doesn't matter. Okay, it still falls into that quadrant. Okay, now the one quadrant that most people tend to overlook is your sleep. If you're not sleeping, you're not getting much done. And I will tell you, lack of sleep will create added problems. I find if I don't have something on the go, and I think this is one of the reasons why I've got this up and running. I've got three monitors. Four monitors really, if you count the laptop. Okay, but I've got 14 documents open right now that I'm working on today, and I have decided I'm going to do what I can to close them. Okay, to get them tied off, saved, and shut down, instead of having so many open all at once. But I've got to get this side of it organized. Okay, now here's the thing. I talk about splitting it evenly because very few business and very few jobs or businesses only run 6 hours in one day. Okay, because we take 24 hours in a day and you divide that by the 4 quadrants. And now you've got 6 hours a day. But because of the fact that today's society does not permit you to only be open 6 hours a day or to be that balanced out, okay, life just isn't that organized. So you break it down to 1/4 of your time per week. This means out of 7 days, 42 hours on your own, 42 hours mixed with the various different people you have, 42 hours working, and 42 hours sleeping. Now, I looked at the issue of sleeping. So many people talk to me, I need my 8 or 10 hours of sleep. And that is what we've been taught. However, I got thinking about it. I was bored one day, and I got thinking about it and went, what happens if you don't lose quality of life? If your health is maintained, what would happen if you cut your hours of sleep from 8 hours a night that so many people talk about and cut it down to 6, or cut it down to 4? Well, If you do that, when you balance it out, what you're actually looking at is over the course of a year, you gain an extra roughly month and a half of living time where you can accomplish things towards becoming what you consider successful. Okay. Now, I take a look at it and go, how can I get this across to people? So what did I do? I put a book together where it can be acquired straight through me, straight off my website. Okay. And as you can see, it's not exactly a big book because the method is simple. I see so many people, let's write this huge book. You take something like this, just for example. Where are we? Do we have any actually in here? Of course not. I don't have one book in, well, I do. Okay, this is not an instruction book, but it is one that I work with. Okay. But you take books, most people think they've got to be really big to be impactful. Well, here's the thing. A locomotive will move a whole lot of stuff, but one grain of sand put in the right place at the right time will stop that engine cold. Okay. And this is what we have to remember. Is that the little changes that you make are the ones that will actually shift things around for you. Okay, but you're the one that's going to have to do the work. So there's 4 steps, and I didn't really quite realize it. Well, more to the point, I forgot about it. Okay. You take a look, and the first thing that you have to do towards building a business, whether it's a business or whether it's a home, that's your issue. They all fall into the same pattern. First and foremost, you have to have a plan, a purpose. Why are you doing it? Are you striving to change your life for you, or are you striving to change your life for somebody else? Okay, and the idea is this. You get in your head what you're aiming at, but I will warn you, if you don't have that heartfelt imperative, okay, if you don't have that here, you're going to have a very hard time moving forward in all likelihood. Okay, you can go to any doctor you want, any doctor you choose at all. If they sit there, you can trust them as much as you like. And they sit there and tell you, if you don't cut back on what you're eating, you're going to develop diabetes. Okay, or you're going to die of cancer if you don't quit smoking. That's great. It comes from a person you trust. This is important. But the reality is, if you don't get that heartfelt imperative, then what you end up with is you end up not actually putting the effort into it. A simple example, I've talked about upgrading my wardrobe for months. Okay, but it never really hit me until this morning, just exactly how important that was to me. I was looking at coming online this morning and went, I'd like to have, a proper golf shirt, a collared shirt with my pocket on my chest here. Okay, I've got very few of them. So I'm looking I'm looking at my closet going, I don't really desire to wear a t-shirt, but I do have to get online. So I'll take a t-shirt. But it does mean that as soon as I can get down to the store, which will be this weekend sometime, I will go down and pick up a few extra shirts that I'm content with. And again, I'm doing this for me, because here's the thing with success. You have to feel successful. Now, to me, sitting in a t-shirt, for me personally, okay, it's a success. I've got a t-shirt that doesn't have a whole pile of holes in it. But for me, it's a question of upgrading my wardrobe and being able to look at it and say, there, you're starting to look a little bit more successful. Because the moment you start carrying yourself as though you are successful, this is when things start to change. Okay. So you've got to have a purpose. Why are you making these changes? Is there a reason you're making these changes? And once you've got that purpose, now you can step into the second step, which is setting up a plan. Okay, how are you going to alter things in your life to acquire the success you're aiming at? Okay, to complete that goal that you've laid out. Now, I will tell you, what I found is the clearer your working area is, the easier it's going to be to attain success. Okay, and it boils down to feng shui. Now, in Eastern philosophy, they talk about energy alignment and the energy flow. And there's all kinds of really great books out there. You put your money section in this quadrant, you put your family area on this wall, be it the west wall, north wall. In all fairness, I don't know, because I haven't spent a lot of time looking at it for one reason. When I look at Eastern philosophy, all of their alignment ideas are great, but you got to remember, their entire structure is built that way. Their entire society is built on that whole philosophy. But the principle works. Okay, which is why I've got my office set up so I can run it. Okay, I've got my money, my petty cash down on a shelf down here. My family unit, i.e., where I've got the family pictures, are in my hallway. Now, there is stuff that I've been getting rid of, and you would be amazed how much I've actually gotten rid of. I hate that word. There's so much I have achieved by simply putting that list of things together to rack off, to get them dealt with and get them finished. Okay. And the thing is, as you get the clutter cleared out of your life, whether you have just a little thing out of the way, i.e., maybe your dishes aren't completely done up and put away, take care of that, of just one part of that, one step at a time. Okay, if you don't have the energy to clear the whole room, that's no problem, because we'll get to that momentarily here. Okay, so you take a look at what you're aiming for. Okay, you get a plan together on how you're going to move the energy in your life. Okay, anything that is not contributing towards what you consider success, alter the energy so it all goes the same direction. And the reason for that is the more focused you are, the more successful you're going to be. It simply works that way. Don't just take my word for it. Put some of these tools to work and then see what happens. Okay. Now, you've got to have that plan and you've got to have things organized. Now, in this book, I've actually broken down how to put a plan together. Okay. Because once you've got that, then you can actually make headway. Because the plan itself, and here's the thing, the plan itself is imperative, okay, in order to get things moving in the right direction. But the next part of that is you have to act. You've got to take a look at that plan and start implementing it. And this is why, I still haven't finished moving this stuff off. But this is why this list I talk about, okay, you check the things off one step at a time. And as my father used to put it, you take care of the pennies, they will take care of, the dollars will take care of themselves. You take care of the little things that are cluttering your life. And the simple act of doing that will clear the big things out of the way. Okay. There's an old African proverb that goes, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you clear a room? A really cluttered room, an old storage room that you've got a bunch of junk in that you don't really see. Okay. And my basic rule of thumb is this. If you haven't been into it in a year, the odds are you don't require it. Okay. So I've been going through stuff left, right, and center, and just cleared out the majority of my back hallway, which is why I've got some of the paperwork here. Okay, because this what I've got here, and I know you can't see it, but I used to have a stack of paper this deep that is now down to about that deep. The majority of it has been disposed of. Okay, it's just been gotten rid of, and that's all there is to it. Okay, now I'm going to add something here because if we go to 007, and again, this boils down to an issue of making certain that everything is running properly. That's fin 2007. That should go to it does so. So now we can drag all the way down to 22. Oh, don't need to go to 24. Just need to go to 22. There we go. Okay. Now, the reason I did that is because it keeps things organized, and you have to, like I said, when I mentioned I was going to walk you through this, this is the same process I'm suggesting you follow because I know it works because it's worked for me. Okay. I used to have procrastination down to a fine art. There's an old saying that goes, that literally goes, never do today what you can put off till tomorrow. Well, I had it way down faster than that. Never do what you can put off. As you can tell, I like finding the easy way to do things. And the less effort it takes, the easier it is. But once you've got that plan in place, if you're not acting on it, you're not going to make much headway with it. And, there's a saying that goes, thinking about it is as bad as doing it. Well, if thinking about it is as bad as doing it, then thinking about it is also as good as doing it. And I will tell you, I've sat there and I've looked at my paperwork that I've got to go through and thought about doing it. And, amazingly enough, none of it ever got done until I got off my tail feathers and did something with it. Okay. Now, here's the other aspect of working. Here's the other aspect of working with other people. When you've got a goal in mind, absolutely share your idea. Now, I'm not talking about if you're working on a patent and I don't mean go and talk to everybody about the patent you're working on. Because unfortunately, people will automatically, for centuries, people have been taught, if somebody comes up with an idea, first to market is the one that makes the money. Well, here's the silly thing. If that were the case, Kentucky Fried Chicken was not the first fast food restaurant to market. It really wasn't. Okay. But they still make very good money. And in all fairness, McDonald's wasn't the first fast food restaurant to market. Because I remember A&W being out before McDonald's was. Now, you may or may not know these different fast food restaurants. It doesn't matter whether you do. Okay. Like I said, I'm not here to prove anything to anybody. I've been asked by people, well, how can you prove what you're talking about? I'm not interested in proving it. All I'm interested in doing is conveying to you that these are tools that I've worked with that have worked for me. If you're having trouble moving ahead and you haven't pieced it together, then I encourage you to give the tools a shot. Okay. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work. Now, for a while there, I was looking at the numbers up here on the people I've got listening. And I'm going, I don't have the following that is required to turn this world around, which is very true. Okay. But here's the thing. I may have the following that turns one person's life around. Okay. And it really boils down to going, okay, these are the tools that I've tried. These are the things that I've done that have worked. Okay. And these are the ones I've tried that I've experimented with that didn't work. So you have to remember to communicate what you're aiming for. If you've got a goal, like for me, I've got this goal of really taking a look and making my home run properly. Okay. So what I've done at this point is turned around and said, okay, here's the goal I've got and here's how I'm doing it. It is working. Partly, I'm a firm believer that part of the reason it's working is I keep coming out here and I talk about it and say, this is what I'm desiring to do. And then I turn around and go and do it. Okay. Because I go, okay, I said I'm going to do it. And I've got this thing. If I'm going to claim I'm going to do something, I don't get it done as fast as I would like. This much is clear. Okay, but the more focused I can stay so I can see things getting done, and you'll find the same thing. The more focused you are that you can see things happening, the better off you're going to be. Once you've started acting on things and you get tools and you get a task taken care of, this is when you start expanding. And here's the thing. If you're running a business, okay, if you're running a business, and let's just assume that I'm just going to talk to those of you that are looking at getting more than one location. Okay. Whether we're talking franchise, maybe you're a person that desires to own a whole lot of real estate. Okay. Well, here's the kicker to it. When we're talking about expanding to new outlets, to new franchise outlets, like for instance, the obvious one is your fast food restaurants or dry cleaning companies that have multiple different outlets where they're running from different buildings. Now here's the kicker. How do you figure out when it's safe to expand? That is a simple formula. Take a look at what it costs you to run your business, to run your rent, your utilities, your insurance, transportation, product. Take a look at all of that. Add it all together. Okay, if that's what it costs you, then what you're looking at, and here's the formula. You take that amount of money and go, when my net profit will handle not only my current, like the net profit being after all your current bills are covered, net profit is what is left. When your net profit is high enough to support another outlet on its own, without the other outlet doing any business, now you're in a position where opening the other outlet will not cause you a problem. Okay, because you've got the cash flow to handle it. Now, the nice part is the first one, you've only got one business to make that net profit. When you've got the second outlet, you look at the combined income of both. Okay, and now combined between those two outlets, will the net profit between the two handle a third outlet? If the answer is yes, you're safe to expand with no added stress to you, aside from the stress of opening another store, okay, or another outlet. Now, this applies whether we're talking about a small little grocery store that you just decided to pick up a new outlet on, or building an outlet, building a major intercontinental company. It applies the same way. Okay, and this is what I mean when I say these are universal tools, because it doesn't matter if you've got $10,000 coming in or $100 billion coming in. Okay, what is coming and what happens is, as long as you're following this kind of an idea, and don't take my word for it, check the numbers yourself. Okay, absolutely. Check the numbers yourself. Because what you'll find happen is that you actually get the success you're aiming at. It may not happen, it probably won't happen overnight, but it may. Now, recently, when you start looking at expanding, now I'm writing. Okay, and just yesterday I had somebody else approach me with the idea of putting my name further out on the net. I have spent so much money at the hands of other people telling me that they can put my name on the net. It has done nothing for my income levels. So I just made a decision yesterday. I'm not spending any more money with companies regarding net coverage and what have you. It will slow my growth down. Well, in all fairness, it really won't. Okay. Because spending all that money didn't do me a bit of good. Okay. I still didn't. And the people that said that they could guarantee my sales would go up have not come through at all. So I'm just not spending more money on them. It's just that simple. Okay. But like I mentioned, I did figure out a way, and this is what I've put into use. Is in this funny little book here. Okay. In this funny little book here, I have the formulae for handling my net profit word of mouth advertising. Okay, yeah, I figured out how to track it. And because I figured out how to track it, I can now implement it. Okay, so that will start off as soon as I get past the end of this month, because I had to get it in place. And it really boils down to this. I've talked about changing the way my world is going. I've talked about the way you can change your world. But unless you get off your tail feathers, it's not going to happen. You can talk to all the people in the world you desire. It's not going to happen if you don't pick up the tools to do it. Okay, so once you hit your goals, expand your reach. Okay, net result. Okay, and this, again, it's in a whole lot more detail in here. And I'm building the second part of this. Okay, of this one. Okay, because I've got 10 other books in this series, the Believe in Your series. Okay. And these are all different projects I'm working on. This is one of the reasons why I don't sit still a whole lot. But I've got things moving at this point. And of course, as soon as I get done today, I'll be, like I said, when I added that list of things right at the end there, I'd originally been at, where were we? At 62 items on my list. I added a whole pile, and right now I am at 78. Okay, 78 items that I have to deal with. Okay, now I won't get to all 78 of them today, but I am starting to rack them off and be done with it. Okay, and it's the same thing with the clutter in your house. Now the thing is this: whether we are talking about the clutter in your home, the clutter in your head, it's the same thing. Okay, now there is a concept that says that your primary living space or primary work area is a reflection of the way your mind is working. Okay, well, if that is the truth, if that is a reality, and you get to figure out if that makes sense to you. But in my eyes, if that's the reality, then the way your mind is sitting is also a reflection of the way your living quarters or primary work area is sitting. Okay, now I will tell you, it's a whole lot easier, and you can test this one out yourself. It's easier to make a change in the physical world than it is in the spiritual one. Although change starts in the spiritual world, the change takes place in the material one. And here's a prime example. Okay, I've got my coffee cup in my left hand. I don't desire it there. Okay, I can think about putting it over into my right hand, but here's the reality. We're taught that change is difficult. We're taught change is painful, it's scary, it's frightening. Okay, understand first and foremost, if you've been listening to me at all, or to anybody, your mind is constantly changing. And the fact you're breathing, it is constantly undergoing transformation. Where it comes to a coffee cup, I've got it in my left hand. I desire it not to be there. So I'm going to put it in my right hand, and you'll notice this is change. Okay, you notice I didn't hit the floor writhing in pain. Same thing applies to you. Unless you're absolutely writhing in pain, which I just cannot functionally imagine. which is really bad when you think I write science fiction, science fantasy. But when you're taking a look at things, change has to happen, but you're the one that's going to have to instigate it. Okay. Now, with that in mind, okay, I do implore you to really take a look at yourself and ask yourself one question. Are you content with the way your life is? Are you content with the way your life, your existence is evolving? Are you as prosperous, as financially set as you would like to be? Now, I personally, you take a look at your income, okay? Take care of you first, because if you're not taking care of you first, you're going to run into a problem. And I did this myself. Okay, I reached out, and this is why I say I'm not perfect. Okay, the key is not are you perfect? The key is are you recognizing where you're having hiccups? Okay, I reached out to help somebody that I felt really required it, but they made no effort themselves. Okay, to modify what was going on, and I ended up overextending myself. Okay, I've since corrected that problem, and you can as well. But you got to realize that you taking care of you first means you don't fall under the category of having to rely on everybody else. Okay, to become successful, to become independent, is going to require effort on your part, not on anybody else's part. Okay, so yes, I've overextended myself. There's no question there. But what I'm looking at this point is that I'm turning around and going, okay, how do I deal with things from here? Well, the first rule of thumb is get an idea of what you consider success. For me, I've got all these things to do. I won't have any shortage of things to do today. Like I said, I told you, get 3 on a list and then get 1 done and check it off. Okay, well, what I've done is I literally went, okay, I need all of this to get caught up. Then I can start moving forward. So I will start writing these things off 1 step at a time. Okay, and as I get them, once I get back down under the limit, then I will be fine. Okay, then I'll already have by then built a pattern that I can follow, and one that I strongly recommend you follow. Okay, now, the sad part of it is I have made the mistake of comparing what I'm telling people to what other people are telling people. And I sit here looking at the YouTubers that are out there and they're getting thousands upon thousands of people. Okay. And I'm like, how do you do that? And that was what I was looking at. And I got thinking, if I can save one person the headache of what I've gone through, and I don't mean in life, I'm talking about just the material world. Okay, if I can point out some of the pitfalls I went through and thereby save somebody a headache, maybe over time, not overnight. Okay, I mean, let's face it, I'm 59 right now. Now, with that in mind, both my parents made it into their 80s. Okay, which gives me another 20 years on this path where I can share with people what I've gone through and how I turned it around. And I can help, hopefully, some of you get the idea that you have the ability yourself. Back in the 70s, there were commercials. There were these little blurbs that came out. You've got the power. Okay. And you do. You're taught you don't. Children are not taught children are not born thinking they're going to fail. Okay. Children are born pushing to succeed. And then adults come along and go, you're not good enough. You're not going to be there. Okay. Now, the problem is they went the wrong direction. They started off there, and now what they do is they put people in school and go, no matter how much effort you put in, you're going to graduate. You're not going to know anything, but you're going to graduate. We have dropped the ball massively. We, as in the collective we. have dropped the ball massively in getting people to really focus on what they can accomplish, to focus on the similarities between people. Now, because I also work in the metaphysical field, in the UFO, in the the UFO, the alien worlds, okay, I also will tell you that the other races, the other species that I've dealt with, have the same problem. This is not a human problem. This is a universal problem. Okay, and don't kid yourself. Animals and plants have their own way of communicating. But what we have to look at is we've got to start looking at the communication lines. And if I can help just the one person, okay, then I'm making headway. Okay, or they're making headway, I'm not sure which. The ironic part of it is, like, I watch the numbers that are going up, and right now, it's sad to say, in some ways, there's nobody in the chat room right now as near as what's showing up here, and I don't know if that's right or not. Technology and I have never gotten along well. But what I do know is I've gone through this last hour talking to you about this idea of success. How do you do that? And what it's done for me, and this is really where it boils down to. I decided that simply sitting here and talking about and working on some of the stuff I'm working on, that I can get a little bit more focused. And I certainly don't desire to go through the same thing I did the other day. Okay, but with that in mind, I'm going to wind this down because of the fact, well, frankly, I've got things to do. Okay, I will certainly be back. Okay, but I do encourage you to really focus on the similarities between you and anybody around you. It doesn't matter. Take a look at the most successful person in your eyes, who you see as the most successful person. And that's the one you look to. Okay. It's not called jealousy. Okay. Envy is okay. Okay. Because what envy does is says, gee, I'd really like to be able to do that. Okay. And then you approach them and figure it out. Jealousy takes that to a very negative level. Okay. So I'm going to wind it down with this. Absolutely focus on the positive things happening around you. Do your best. You concentrate on the positive, emphasize them, you minimize the negative, and you really, really, really stay focused on what you feel will make you successful, will make your life more comfortable for you without hurting other people. Now, I know the way the world's going right now. I can see it just as well as you can. But I will be back again. I will be back again tomorrow, or maybe later today. But I will be back again. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.